Alright guys, good afternoon, welcome to another TA update. Today is the 26th of August, and it's just coming up to 1:30 p.m. here in the UK. I'm just going to check that everything's working, the audio is working, the video is working. Sorry this one's a bit rushed, I've already made a couple of little mistakes, you've already saw a couple of different screens there, but yeah, it's a little bit rushed, but I think we are ready to go. Audio's working, video's working. Got the first comment by Massimo. Here we go. Grazie Massimo. Right, so let's crack on. So we start with the cryptocurrency heat map. You can see here the great majority of crypto is in the red. And if we look at the stock market heat map, great majority of it is in the green. So a little bit of a divergence there going on. So it's all looking good on the stock market, not so good on the cryptocurrency heat map. In terms of the calendar of what's happening today, and it's happening in right now, I think the consumer, but it's not the consumer price index, it's not the CPI, it's actually the PCE. Now this is different from the CPI because it only measures goods and services targeted towards and consumed by individuals. So this is again another primary inflation measure by the Federal Reserve, and it's very similar to the PCI, but it's more sort of like directed towards the consumer. So this is going to get released any minute now. So this will definitely cause volatility into the markets. And on top of that, in about half an hour's time or maybe an hour's time, Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, will be doing a little speech. So he'll be talking from the Jackson Hole Symposium. Like I said to you guys on Monday, this will probably cause a little bit of volatility. So depending on how the figures come out and depending on what he says, we could see some volatility heading for the rest of the week, for the rest of the day today and into the weekend. So if the inflation figures come out if it looks like it's peaked already, then risk on will stay on, and this is good for the markets and everything will go up. However, if it looks like the inflation's gone up and there's not much in the way of a relentless inflation, so if the inflation is still going up and consumer price, consumer power, purchase power is lower, then of course that means that maybe they do need to do more in the Federal Reserve, and they might hike the interest rates even more, which would drive the prices down. So with all that, basically all you got to take from it is that there's likely to be volatility this afternoon, and perhaps you should hedge your positions moving forward. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to the charts. And I start here with the S&P, and as you guys know, I'm looking on the top left hand corner is the yearly VWAP, the top right hand corner is the quarterly, on the bottom right is the monthly, and here on the bottom left is the weekly. Now if we look at the weekly chart first with the yearly VWAP, you can see obviously that we've got rejected here the yearly VWAP, 2022 VWAP, and we came down, but we got past the 2021 VWAP here, so that didn't hold as support, right? But like I said, we are kind of rotational inside of this high volume cluster, so it's only natural that we came to the other side of it. And where did we actually stop? Let me just take some of these marks off, brush marks off. And if I put a little line exactly where we stopped and we look over to our right, you can see that it was exactly at the lower edge of this high volume cluster. Right, look at that, this is the high volume cluster there, and it's exactly at that lower edge of that, right? So round about here. Now I was expecting the price to go a little bit lower. I wanted to see it going below 4,100 points and target this low volume node here. It wasn't to be, right? So it's potentially we could be heading lower again if the figures come out like I said from the Federal Reserve, and they're not very good figures. But if they do come down, like I said, this value area low of the current year VWAP, 2022 VWAP, is sitting around about 4,050 points, around about here where this low volume node is, and that's the level I expect to bounce. And this is the line in the sand going forward. If price gets below that, then I'm afraid that we're getting accepted inside of this high volume cluster, and we're going to head much lower, right? And that means that we'll potentially go and target this level here around about 3,600 points, which would mean printing a new low. Right, so at the moment it does look like on the weekly here, this weekly candle looks very, very bullish. We are reaching this area here. So if I put this on the 3-day chart, or maybe even on the 3-day chart, it's fine. You can see that we came lower and now we're going higher, And where are we getting stopped? Where are we finding resistance? Exactly at that 2021 VWAP, right? So now it remains to be seen, do we climb above this and find resistance here at this yearly VWAP like before, right, at this low volume node here, or do we actually head lower here now and go to that level that I was expecting at around about 4,000 points, right? The line in the sand really is this level here, right, 4,000 points, because as you can see, that means acceptance inside of this high volume cluster. And if we find acceptance inside of there, then as soon as the price comes back inside and finds that the top is resistance, it's likely to travel to the other side of balance, right, which will be this level here. So around about 3,600 points. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, and I'm looking at that 4,000 points here as the line in the sand, right? I don't expect it to go that low. What I do expect is the price to go and do something like target these lows here, this ledge here, or perhaps even this low volume node here, 4,050 points, which has perfect confluence with this level here, right? And then here, a bounce would be very, very bullish, right? So a bounce here would most likely take us back to the yearly VWAP at around about 4,200, 4,300 points. And if we break above that, then I think we'll be looking at around about 4,500 points, which is more or less where this tapering volume starts, right? So it's basically the edge of this high volume cluster around about here, right? So that's basically what we're seeing here on the S&P. There's no point of going up to the lower time frames, although I could have a quick look, but that's essentially what we are. We're kind of rotational inside of these two levels, right? But overall the value is way up here. So if we're bullish and we get above 4,300 points, then that's where we're heading. We're heading up here. If we get below this level here, then where we're heading is way down here, okay? And that's as simple as that. Moving on to the quarterly, I suppose you could do the quarterly VWAP here. You can see that yearly VWAP and the quarterly value area high had confluence, and this is what acted as resistance. And where did we bounce? We bounced pretty much at the previous quarter's VWAP here, right? And we didn't take out the previous lows. So this is kind of bullish, right? Like I said here, where we bounced from is exactly on this ledge, on the HVE, so the high volume edge here, right? So again, if we do find resistance here and we go lower, I'm expecting either a bounce here or perhaps even as low as 4,050 points right about here. But I don't want to see the price getting much lower than that, okay? This would be indicative of taking the stops for these guys that got in late, right? It would take out those stops and then go back up like sometimes we see on Bitcoin. But again, a lot of people would be seeing this as a change in market structure, right? What we want to see is just a very quick dip just below there to this low volume node here, just below 4,100 points, and then straight back up. Like I said, if it gets all the way down here and it bounces straight away, that's very, very bullish for everything, not just for the S&P. Okay, of course, if we get below this, like I said, and then we fail to get back out of this, meaning that we find acceptance inside of this here, then we're going to head much lower. All right, so with this low volume node here is a pivot, is a key level, right? And if we do not bounce here at this key level, then that means almost certainly that when we accept inside of this here, this now will be resistance around about 4,000 points. So we'll have to watch this very carefully. All right, so that's basically it here on the S&P. There's no point of me going into the lower time frames. I suppose you can go here on the monthly VWAP. You can see that we're rotational inside of this as before, you know, so we bounced on the value area low, and then here the monthly VWAP did not get respected until here where we found resistance. But last night we came below, we broke back above it, and now we've confirmed that as support. So if that's the case and this is indeed support, we're going to be rotational to the next level around about 4,250 points. If that doesn't happen and we go back below, then again 4,100 points is where I'm looking for, and I'm looking for these stops to get taken out, right? So somewhere around here is what I'm looking for. Okay, there's a large liquid candle below, so it is possible that if we do travel below, it's going to be very quick to go all the way to 3,980, right, or 4,000 points if you like. But that's really 4,000 points really is the line in the sand, right? So if we get acceptance back inside of this, right, if the price does this, something like this, comes back here, it wants to bounce straight back up, right? Because if it doesn't, gets acceptance back inside here, well, we're trapped inside of this balance here, and therefore we'll be rotating back to the lows here around about 3,700, 3,600. Okay, so I showed you on the higher time frames and on the lower time frames, very much the same thing. So that's what we're looking for right now. One thing to take away from it though, really, is that we are above the previous quarter VWAP. We're also above the monthly VWAP, and we're also above the weekly VWAP, right? So the only really higher time frame scenario that we're looking at in terms of resistance is this quarterly value area high at 4,300 points, which has perfect confluence with the yearly VWAP there. All right, so in terms of higher time frame, yes, we are below resistance. On the lower time frames, it does look bullish. All right, so that's the S&P for now. Let's move on to Bitcoin, and I'll start here with the weekly chart, and I'm going to take out some of these brush marks. Right, and we start again with the yearly VWAP. And looking here at the yearly VWAP on Coinbase, you can see that this is the value area high of 2020. This was the VWAP close. This is the value area low, and the value area high is exactly where we bounced, right? So that's where we bounced here from the lows. When we went back to the highs again, where did we find resistance? At the value area low of the current VWAP value. Okay, so the 2022 value area low. That's where we found resistance. Now let's look for clues on the lower time frames. If you look here, this is quarterly VWAP again. We've been ranging for quite some time. We had a very clear range here. We broke above that. We came back, confirmed that this is indeed the previous range highs is now support, and then we started ranging above. And now we've fallen back inside of this range, and we're kind of tethering on the edge. Are we going to accept below and go down here, or are we going to go higher and go back to the range highs? That's kind of what we have to dig down and see if we can find out, right? So we are below, we bounced on the value area low of the current quarters, right? The previous quarter value, so this is a quarterly VWAP, this is the value area low. We had found a little bit of support there, right? We had a couple of bounces, one here and one here, but then actually when we lost that yearly VWAP rejection there, we came all the way back down, we bounced on the quarterly value area low. So now we are below the quarterly VWAP. Not so great on the higher time frames, right? Below the quarterly VWAP. If we look at the monthly, so in fact, let me just put this all together like this. So this is the quarterly, this is the monthly, just to keep things in context. Right? Right. So as you guys can see here, the previous month, this is the month of July VWAP close, has been acting as resistance ever since we came down from the current month value, right? So we were above the value area high here, this is the value area low, and this had been acting as support for quite some time. Once we got below the monthly VWAP here. Once we lost that level, we've not been back to revisit that as resistance. Not yet, anyway, right? So if we do go higher, this is a key level of resistance, right about $22,700, okay, which is where this low volume node is. However, if you look carefully here, you can see that we've already tested the current monthly value area low, and it's already been rejected as well. So again, not looking too great for Bitcoin. If we look at this monthly VWAP, it has confluence with the previous month's value area high, which also has confluence just above the quarterly there at the previous quarter value area low. So again, highly contextual levels that we're kind of like having as they're kind of confluent with each other, right? So let me just change this a little bit here, right? I'm going to put a line there so that you guys can see, right? So I've put a line on one chart, but it's printing it on all the charts, right? So as you can see here, this line is the same as this one. It's the same as this one here. 22,000, 23,000, you know, 22,800, something like that, right? I do think because we've got a low volume node there, right, I think it's going to be lower. It's going to be more like 22,700, and I'll show you why in just a second. So we are currently below the previous month's VWAP close. So I think that we've already tested the current month's value area low there, And as such, if we carry on below here, we're going to head to the lows here around about 20k. So you can imagine this is the value. If we're rotational inside of this value, it doesn't matter. These are the two extremes here, but at the moment we can't even get past the halfway point, right? So except above here we're going higher, but where we are right now it does look like it wants to go head lower to around about 20k. I hope that kind of makes sense, right? So God damn it, let me just delete all of these brush marks. Just bear me just a second. Right. So I hope that makes it clear. This level here, and this is the value. Right? So at the moment we're below that static line, which is the VWAP close for July. Right? If we go higher, this is going to be strong resistance moving forward. In fact, I think it's going to be a bit lower, around about $22,500, like I've been saying. Right? But we could go as high as 23 or 22.7. If we head lower, then I'm looking at this level here, $20,000, which is where this low volume node is. And if I look actually at the whole thing on the 4-hour chart, I'm looking at this value here for June, and the value area low as the next level of support, right? So in fact that's too low. If I was to put a line there, we just put a line there, somewhere around about there, very close to this low volume node around about $19,500, $19,600, right? So again, just to be perfectly clear, on the higher time frames, I'm looking at $22,500, $22,700 as resistance. I'm looking at $19,600 as levels of support. This is right in on the edges of this high volume cluster. On the lower time frames, I'm looking at this here as resistance, around about 21,700, 21,800 as resistance, and in terms of support, I'm looking at around about 20,500, which is where this low volume node is here, right? So around just below price there. Okay, so let's have a look at the order flow and see if we can find any clues regarding that. So again, what I'm doing here with this is their weekly profiles, and they're merged together because they give two very clear ranges. So I'm going to expand those clusters and you can see them as normal price action where the price has been, right? So it's very clear here that we are kind of accepted inside of this range here, right? We're inside of this range here, so we're rotational between these two levels now, okay? But we're still very close to the highs. We've rated the highs there, we got rejected, and it does look like it wants to head lower. Although, in terms of price action, this is hovering at resistance. So, mixed signals here. Do I want to take a long position here? No, I'm not interested in taking long positions here. I'm more interested in taking a long position if we clear these equal lows here that you can see on the 4-hour chart. There's two pairs, so there's a pair there, around about 20,700, and there's another one below. So I'm looking at this point of control, 20,500 as a potential scalp long if we were to take that liquidity and then move higher, right? But I don't want to take a long position here because above us there's loads of stops, and loads of stops means that that liquidity could be grabbed and then fall back inside of the range. Additionally, this previous range low here, which is support, as you can see here, support, has not been tapped as resistance yet. So, and that's sitting around about $22,500. There's a little bit of a consolidation there, around about 22,700. So even if the price goes all the way up here, I'm looking for shorts, targeting basically these lows here, potentially this here, and maybe even this range high here. Okay, take profits. Of course, the invalidation of that and why the reason why I'm looking at shorts up here is, like I said, this was previous support, this has been untapped as resistance. So it's going to be resistance until proven otherwise. If, however, we accept above like this, then we'll be targeting, get out of my short, go into a long position, and I'll be targeting $24,500. But we're not seeing evidence of that, and like I said, this is a high probability trade if we do go up first, right? So that's why I'm not interested in longs here. However, here and here I'm looking for shorts, right? Acceptance above, I'm looking for longs. However, if we do go lower and we go to about here, I could potentially look at a long scalp. If we do head to around about here, $19,600, I'm looking for a long position because, again, we're at the lows of the range, right? So if you can imagine, if this is the range that we're going to be trapped in, what's the point of going long at the highs here, right? I'd much rather wait for lower prices. If by any chance, if we are really bullish and we go up here, then I want to see confirmation of that before I want to go long. Okay, so I'm quite happy to wait and see if we get confirmation, how do you say, acceptance above $22,500, and if we do, then yes, I'm quite happy to long until 24,500, 25k or whatever. But I don't want to take longs here at resistance. This is resistance until proven otherwise, and that's basically what I'm looking at and how I'm playing this. Okay, if I'm looking at the daily time frame, I've got this basically. This here is a 6-day profile. I believe it's a 7-day profile actually. As you can see, it was all merged together. Right, now we've got a few levels here that I want to pay attention before I merge this, and the level that I want to pay attention is this naked value area high here. It's untapped, and that's sitting at around about 22k, and then we've also got another one here that almost got tapped just now, around about $21,800, $21,700. Now those two levels I'm interested for potential, let me just put it like this so that it's easier to identify in a minute when I merge the profiles, for potential triggers to go down. And obviously if I go a little bit higher, you guys can see this. I'm looking at this level here around about 22k, 22,200 as the single print. Right, so let me just merge all these profiles. Those are the levels that I'm looking for short, right? At the moment, we're still back inside of this value area of the last 7 days, right? So a swing failure pattern, what the levels that I'll be looking at first is this one here, 21,700. Secondly, around about 22k, and then 22,150, 22,200. This is basically naked value area highs up above here, and sorry, this one, and this one, and this one here is the edge of the single print. Now, the one thing that I will point out is that if for some reason market takes out all of these, starts filling the single prints, and then we start hovering here around about 22,500, like I said, 22,500 looks like resistance, right? But then something here has changed, because on this market profile the single prints have just gotten filled, right? If there's an aggressive seller that caused all of these single prints, and suddenly the market gets to trade back above where he sold, then something's changed, right? So it's a little bit trickier. Like I said, there's that range there between, I showed you here on the weekly. I don't want to overcomplicate things too much. It's a little bit trickier when you're shorting here, right? Because like I said, you just filled out all of these single prints, and now we're very close to balance. But you know, here is very close to invalidation, and acceptance above is very clearly just above 22,600. So I'm willing to take that risk there, because it's really nothing there, right? In terms of risk. So that's basically why I'm looking at those levels there, and I recommend you do the same. I'm not interested in taking long positions where we are right now. So with that out of the way, that's kind of Bitcoin out of the way in terms of order flow. On the footprint, I'm not going to go into the footprints. I think I've got too much to get by. So let's. I think that's clear where we are right now. We want to see acceptance back above $22,500. Until then, if not, 22,500 is resistance, and so is 21,800. Targets for the downside, I'm looking at 20,500 and 19,600 for long positions. Okay, so now you've got two higher time frame levels for resistance, two higher time frame levels for support. For Ethereum versus USD, let me just take out all of these brush marks off. This is very clearly, we start here on the weekly with a balance. If you like, we're obviously inside of this range here, which is why we got this rectangle there, and basically $2,000 is resistance, $1,400 is support. We didn't quite get to $1,400. We kind of bounced there, and you can see here, if I take the balance areas off, that's basically the value area low of the current yearly VWAP, right? So That's kind of where we're bouncing right now. If I was to guess, if the price does get volatile and we see some downside, I expect this level here to hold. Okay, if we do get acceptance below this, if somehow the price does something like this, then this is likely to become resistance, and so I'll be targeting this level here. Okay, on the same hand, if the market comes all the way up here and finds acceptance above, then this low volume node will become support instead of resistance, and we'll be targeting those prices up there. So that's basically why I've got this like this in split balance areas. But for now, we're just rotational below these two, between these two levels. $2,000 is resistance, $1,400 as support. Okay, fall below, this will be the next level of support. Break above, and this will be the next level of resistance. Perhaps even this one here, the 2022 VWAP, at around about $2,400. All right, so that's on the higher time frames here on Ethereum. If I look at this on the daily chart and the quarterly VWAP, you can see that basically we're still trading above the quarterly VWAP. We bounced there a couple of times now. This was the previous quarter value area low, as you can see here, right? And once the price broke above it, it was resistance, but once the price broke above it, confirmed it as support, and we've been bouncing on the current quarter for quite some time now, since middle of July, right? So clean up again, so you can see that this level here is key, but now we bounced here and we bounced here, so we're above the quarterly VWAP, so that's good for Ethereum. Additionally, if we look here at the let me just take some of these brush marks off. If we look here at the monthly on Ethereum, key level of resistance, right, the value area high of this. Okay, so this was a key level of resistance. Once we broke above it, we confirmed it as support. We bounced on the monthly. Here we lost the monthly VWAP, and now we got below it. Okay, however, where are we finding support? We're finding support right here, right? So as long as we are above $1,600, I've got no reason to believe that we're heading lower to $1,400. So $1,600 on the lower time frame is a key level of support. If we are to be rotational inside of these two levels here, just delete some of these brush marks, actually clean it up a little bit. So if we are to be rotational inside of this monthly value, right, we've just bounced here at the lows, so my inclination is that we're going higher to around about $1,900. However, we've got the monthly VWAP here acting as resistance around about 1,750. So again, we're still below the monthly VWAP, but we are above the quarterly, right? Also interesting to note that this monthly VWAP, if I was to put this like this, I'm going to put a little line there. This monthly VWAP, I'm going to put a line there, is very, very close to the quarterly value area high. So that's an important thing to keep an eye on. Okay. Additionally, if I look here at the weekly, it's also very close to the previous week VWAP close. So around about $1,750, $1,800, something like that. All right. So let's have a look at the weekly, see if we can find any more clues. So we bounced on the quarterly, which also has confluence with the value area low of the previous week. That's the value area high. That's the value area low there. We bounced there, which also had confluence with the weekly VWAP. Right, so you can see how it kind of all becomes contextual after you find confluence of 2 or 3 or more key levels, right? So we've got quarterly VWAP, we've got the weekly VWAP, and you've got the previous quarter value area low right there. Hence why we saw this big reaction there as a level of support, right? So for now, it does look bullish on Ethereum. We're above some key levels here. We're above the weekly VWAP. We are below the monthly, but we're also above the previous month value area high, which is bullish. We're above the quarterly, and we're just above the value area low here of the yearly. So looking a little bit better for Ethereum than it is for Bitcoin. Moving forward for Ethereum versus BTC, you can see that Ethereum versus BTC here on the weekly is still very much outperforming it. You know, we're kind of rotating at the top here, and it's really clear in terms of levels of support, right? So I'm just going to put this again Let me just delete all of the drawings. So this is the quarterly here. So on the weekly chart, we're looking at this value area high of the current yearly VWAP, which is around about here, is acting as support right now, 75,000 sats. Okay, resistance is still around about 80,000 sats. So we are above the value area high of the current year. If we were to fall below that, then we're looking at 70,000 sats as a strong level of support. Okay, for some reason I've just got rid of that trend line. There we go, there's the trend line. Okay, let's try and make this as clear as possible on Ethereum versus BTC. We've got lots of confluent levels at this level here, this area here, right? So we've got the yearly VWAP, we've got a trend line that goes all the way back to June 2021. We've also got the value area high of the 2021 value, with this being the value area low and this being the VWAP close where we bounced from, right? So we've got this line here falling perfectly in line with that trend line, with the yearly VWAP, and also didn't realize this was printing on all of the charts. So let me just delete all of that. I'm sorry about this. Okay, so we're looking at around about 70,000 sats as an important level of support. That's the yearly VWAP, right? There's the trend line, value area high of 2021. And also, if you look here at the quarterly, that's exactly where it is, right there, right? Round about 70,000 sats. So this is an important level of support going forward. If we lose that, then we're very likely to head to this low volume node here, which is current quarter's value area low. So you can see that we went here, we found a little bit of rejection. So we could be heading lower to here. And if we head lower than that, then we'll be rotational inside of this value here, okay, inside the quarterly value here. So I hope this kind of makes sense. So quite simply, we've got resistance at 80,000 sats, we've got support at 75,000 sats. Break 75,000 sats, we're going to 70,000 sats. If we break below 70, we're going to 65,000 sats. And that's basically Ethereum versus BTC on the higher time frames. Okay, it's very simply, 70 is this level here. 65,000 sats also has confluence with the value area low of 2022. Okay, so if you want to make this easier, if you don't have access to the VWAPs like that, you can look at this low volume node here as support, this low volume area here as resistance, and somewhere in the middle, this point of control is also support. Okay, and it's very strong support as you got the point of control, the yearly VWAP, trend lines, and all sorts of confluent levels at that level. So 70,000 sats, very strong support. And that is it for Ethereum versus BTC. I'm not going to do the FODL trading pairs. I'll save that for Monday. I'm in a bit of a rush. I've got a long weekend, bank holiday here in the UK, so I've got to go out with the family. But I hope that this keeps you on the right side of the trades. I've done Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ethereum versus BTC. So in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it keeps you on the right side of the trades. Keep an eye on the S&P and what the Federal Reserve Chairman is going to say today. But until next week, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.